At 24 past, with the breaking news, multiple reports now cite Israeli officials, that being the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and others, who say that Iran's supreme leader is dead. Iran counters that by saying he is alive and well. I should add, MS now has yet to confirm any of this. But again, we are getting multiple reports, whether they are being sourced exclusively to Benjamin Netanyahu, who made the suggestion that there are many indicators that that has happened. We don't know yet. Again, this is in the fog of war. We are trying to get all this confirmed for all of you. But let's bring in right now Sam Mednick, Associated Press correspondent covering Israel and the Palestinian territories. What are you hearing on this front, Sam?
Well, as you mentioned, we are still reporting this out as well. But what we are hearing and what Netanyahu said is that there are growing signs that the supreme leader has been killed. Israeli officials are also seem to be saying that there are signs that he has been killed as well. But we haven't heard confirmation from the U.S. yet, or as you mentioned, from Iran either. But it seems like the trend right now is going in that direction. And we do know that early this morning, Israel was targeting Iran's top leadership, including Khamenei.
Give us a sense of what you are hearing there, whether it is news reports locally, what people are saying. What is the very latest from there, Sam?
Well, on the ground here, people have been running to and from shelters pretty much all day since there were strikes this morning. The U.S. and Israel struck Iran. There have just been air alarms. People are going to the shelters. Israel has had a heightened sense of emergency, telling people to just basically be careful. Just an hour ago, also, there was interceptors in the sky. You could kind of hear the booms going off. And so everyone here is sort of on a heightened sense right now and bracing for what is going to come next. But Israelis here are also saying that they are happy about this. They are supporting this offensive, that they want what they say the threat of Iran to just be finished, and they're willing to endure attacks, injuries, they say even death, if this is going to finally be done. And people are saying that they are hoping that it is true that Khamenei is killed, although still there is this concern. What comes next? Even if he is killed, that doesn't mean that there is any assurances as what comes after is going to be any better, is what they're saying.
And Sam, what have you seen and heard in terms of what's been happening in the skies? Has there been a lot of fireworks, evidence that the Iron Dome has been effectively working? Have there been any reports of missiles and or drone strikes getting through?
There have been reports that people have been injured, a few dozen people, the services here say, but light injuries, and no one so far has been reported to be killed. But you can see pretty much all night it has been extremely busy. You hear these alarms, and then you see in the sky, they're interceptors, they kind of flash bright lights, and then there's this boom that you're hearing. And we're hearing it a lot here in Tel Aviv, and also, though, in other parts of the country, in Jerusalem, in northern Israel. A lot of people have said to sort of brace for a not quiet night, for this to kind of continue throughout the night and into the morning and for the next few days. It's been quiet for the last hour, but previously it was every 20 minutes people were running to the shelters. The alarms were just constantly going off.
Okay, Sam Mednick, please get back to us if you find out anything further with regard to what's happening there in Israel, if it's of a breaking news nature. Thank you so much for that. Joining me now, we have Hugo Lowell, White House correspondent for The Guardian, and Joel Rubin, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State and author of The Briefing Book on Substack. Joel, you first here. Benjamin Netanyahu saying there are many signs Iran's supreme leader was killed in the attacks. They're getting further confirmation from other sources, though we have yet to confirm it. And we should say that the Iranian officials are contradicting it and saying that the supreme leader, as well as the president, is alive and well. But how plausible is this, and what happens next if it is true?
Well, Alex, it's great to be with you. And this would be an earthquake in the region if the reports are true and if the supreme leader has been killed in these strikes. And quite frankly, I don't think the prime minister would go out and say that unless he had very strong evidence pointing to that end. And for the Iranian leadership, they want to keep the image of the supreme leader alive right now, because if he is gone, what that does is it sort of pulls the plug out from the tub, so to speak, of the unity of the Iranian regime. And now, one of the things you were talking about in your previous segment, I have to add, is the dangers of regime change. But I'm not sure that regime change is the policy objective here. Quite frankly, just regime collapse being the policy, to me, is what we're looking at. And so if the supreme leader is gone, then the chips will start to fall in a variety of different directions. And the military operation will focus more on the hardware and the other threats, the military threats and capabilities of the Islamic Republic.
Hang on, Joel. How can that be when the president himself, in that 8-minute video, essentially washed his hands of what comes next? He said, basically, we're launching the bombs. We are going to create the opening for Iranians to walk through and take over control of their country. And yet you're suggesting that it's just about collapse. If that happens, is the United States left holding the bag?
Yeah, that's right. Look, Alex, I think that's essentially what the president is saying, is that we, the United States, are going to do this, take this action, collapse the regime, kill the leadership, the supreme leader, and then it's up to you, Iranian people, to chart your own path, your own future. A very different model from what was discussed earlier in Iraq, which is that the United States, the Colin Powell rule, the Pottery Barn rule, you break it, you buy it, and you own it. Not in this case. No, I don't think so at all. I think it is a very different mindset about what comes next. And President Trump is arguing, I think, that he just says it's up to the Iranians and I'm not going to get us involved on the ground.
Hugo, what are you hearing about all this? And let me just tell our viewers that you've been on your phone. You've been constantly reporting back and forth as you've been sitting here on the set.
Yeah, I think, I'm looking at a couple of things. First of all, the senior administration officials have been briefing that the principal reason for why they went in and did these strikes was to take out the missile systems in Iran. It was less to do with the nuclear program this time around. But that being said, there have been a number of explanations over the course of the last 2 weeks that the administration has provided for why the administration might want to go into Iran. 2 weeks ago, there was a Gang of 8 briefing where officials were telling members of Congress that the motivation was because there was evidence of restarted activity at the enrichment sites at Fordow and Natanz and Isfahan. I think what is interesting this time around is the fact that it is such a targeted set of strikes on the leadership, on the mullahs and on Ayatollah Khamenei. It is trickling through to us over the course of today that the Israelis and certainly the intel community have been tracking Khamenei's movements, and they've been trying to see whether or not they could get them all in a room at the same time. And I think the fact that, the administration, the Israelis are coming forward and saying, well, we believe Khamenei is dead, kind of speaks to that and kind of how the administration was thinking and how the administration was proceeding. I think you also have to see this in the wider context of how this week has gone. We reported on Monday that part of how Trump would approach strikes was going to hinge on whether Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner thought there was progress towards a deal at the Thursday negotiations in Geneva.
Which they didn't.
Which they didn't. No. On Friday, Trump gets a briefing from the CENTCOM commander, Admiral Cooper, and Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. And then Friday night and Saturday, we see these strikes go out. And so this has been building up now for some time.
Tell me, when the strikes were unfolding in real time, who was watching? Who was in control? Situation Room, White House, what was happening at Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah, Trump's been at Mar-a-Lago. Rubio flew down last night. So I think the principals committee, the principals who were involved in planning this were with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Pete Hegseth was there. John Ratcliffe was there. The CIA director. Susie Wiles, the White House chief of staff. From what we understand from our colleagues, J.D. Vance had a live link from the Situation Room into their set-up war room at Mar-a-Lago. So all the principals, were involved in this. Tulsi Gabbard was also part of this group. She was obviously left out.
She was in Washington?
We believe so.
At the White House? Okay. All right, guys, thank you so much.